Hey there everyone, very good morning again to you all. Charles here, Frgnt Daily Chart Analysis. What's the time? Just approaching 8:30 here in Spain this morning. What's that, Wednesday the 24th of June. Yeah, when you're on holiday you forget the date, that's for sure. Okay, so quick update before I get on with my day. So I've executed a short position on pound CAD, and I've also moved my stop loss to break even. Let me touch on a question, or rather a statement I've had here on TradingView. Why go break even? Well, a multitude of reasons, to be quite honest. First and foremost, expectations of the trade direction. Well, my forecast is, of course, to short from this point of interest that we are in, rather. If we can start that analysis from the 4-hour time frame. I have just done a breakdown on Gbpcad, but I'll go over it just briefly again, no problem whatsoever. So 4-hour order block, price is failing to break and close above that area, and from that order block we can see to the bottom left hand chart, that is of course the 4-hour time frame, what we can see is price made a high from this area, tapped into a 4-hour order block to the left hand side. So once price got there, mind your eyes as I zoom all the way out into this 4-hour order block. We've tapped it once, tapped it twice again. So am I expecting a tremendous reaction from it? Not particularly, but I am expecting the ability for me to at least have an opportunity to move to break even. So that's my first thought, first and foremost, when I'm looking to take a position. Do I have the range to take an opportunity that will allow me to go to break even? Because there are trades everywhere. There will always be opportunities in the market, but whether or not that opportunity will actually allow you to move to break even sensibly is the second part of the equation that you need to really have answered before looking to execute a position. So I believe the market has given me as a trader an opportunity to move break even, and does it make sense? So what I'm looking at here on the 4-hour time frame is the performance now of that 4-hour 50 EMA. Price is failing to break and close below it. Of course, I would love this 4-hour candle to rip below that 4-hour 50 EMA, close below it, and continue moving down towards that daily 50 EMA, where I see long-term Gbpcad could be on the way to doing so. However, using the facts and the facts only in a market, I see that price is rejecting that 4-hour 50 EMA. Yes, I quite agree that price isn't breaking above that 4-hour order block, but the technicals on the chart, based on what I use and based on what I respect, is telling me that price may well roll down towards that 4-hour 50 EMA and reject back towards the upside, which, looking at most recent price action, would make quite a lot of sense, right? Look at this 4-hour candle. At some point in time, that 4-hour candle was incredibly bearish, looking to close below that 4-hour 50 EMA. But what happened? Price tapped into it, rejected that 4-hour 50 EMA, and price, of course, closed below it. So I recognize I have a trading range here at the moment, and I do have opportunity to take a position from it. But what I also must understand is I must manage my position when I feel it's safe to do so. Now, based on the 15-minute time frame, we of course were making higher highs and higher lows on the way there. Here still remains my key point in the market to take an absolute textbook position. Of course, what I would love to see is price break that 4-hour 50 EMA, close below it, of course, break this key structure point where price made that most recent high from. Therefore, this is the confirmed higher low point. Therefore, the best looking position is price seek to start making that move towards the downside. 4-hour candle close below the 4-hour 50 EMA as well. Price come back up, then that would be a beautiful textbook trade. So anything apart from that is going to be an aggressive position. Hence why, if I'm going to take an aggressive position, I must manage my position aggressively as well. Therefore, that's the opportunity that price has delivered for me, if I get my words out. And therefore, despite my overwhelming joy if price was just to melt towards the downside, I must respect what price action is telling me, and what price action is giving me. So I've had that break of structure in the 15-minute time frame. We have seen how prices tapped into those points of interest, and we have had good rejections from there. So 4-hour order block just here, 4-hour order block respected, 15-minute order block that caused that break of structure to the left hand side. You can see price wasn't doing much at all, and therefore we then had that break. Where did that break come from? Had a 15-minute order block just here, price tapped back into it. We've had a further break of structure, price came back up into that area, break of structure, 15-minute order block left behind, looking for the short. Makes absolute sense. Doesn't mean I need to sit in that short position and have my risk exposed. Absolutely not. So that's the position that I'm in at the moment. Of course, if I'm taking out break even, then I won't be re-entering that trade with any immediacy. I do see the imbalance left behind that, of course, I see price could potentially gravitate towards. Let's see if price is going to respect that order block, hopefully towards the lows of that order block, and therefore I'll remain in that position. But it is what it is. My alert is set there. If it goes off, I'm break even in that position. What I'll then need to see is price do something different throughout the time frame, break to the lows again, pull back up into that 15-minute order block. Hopefully that is remaining as a result of that break of structure, and then we'll continue to short Gbpcad in line with that 4-hour order block that remains available. However, as price starts to move higher, I'm hoping that we still will have that range down towards that 4-hour 50 MA to make it a trade worthwhile taking. So that's Gbpcad. An additional reason why I've gone break even on Gbpcad is that GBPUSD have closed that position out for 2%. Now, forget about the percentage. What I must understand, well, I believe that my best position on GU is not GU shorts. I believe that my best position at the moment, based on the technicals, is GU longs. Now, for me to take a GU long, I'm approaching my point of interest where I would be expecting to take a long from. As I always say, if my illustrations that I class as pretty illustrations on the chart, if they are incorrect, which price does not have to respect my illustrations, they are just drawings on a chart, which I use as technical analysis. This, of course, is the lowest 15-minute order block towards those lows. However, if I'm incorrect and price wants to respect a different order block, where's that gone, which is just here, then it's about time I get out of that position on GBP US dollar. That's why I've closed that position out. Despite it not being my usual 3%, it makes sense to close this position out at the moment, despite potential DXY long-term strength coming into the market. I am in a short position where I would be looking to take a long position at some point in time if I have that break of structure on the 15-minute time frame based on price within, if you take your attention to the bottom right hand chart, within that higher time frame daily order block that price is failing to break below. Therefore, from that point of interest, I am indeed long bias. So therefore, I have no reason to be holding a short into a technical area where price is telling me that there is every opportunity for price to move towards the upside. Therefore, if I'm in a Gbpcad short, does it not make sense to anticipate a potential pullback on Gbpcad despite being in that Gbpcad short position? So it's all about managing your expectations here. Despite being in a position, we trade the setup. We don't trade the expectation. Now, if I was to trade my expectation, I would never go break even because I always would love to be correct. However, that's not trading. We are investing in opportunities that present themselves into the market. If the market presents those opportunities, we trade them. However, we must manage our risk accordingly. If you're having investments with banks, would you not expect the bank to do something similar with your money? I sure hope that they are doing so. So therefore, I'm managing my own funds as well as other people's funds, investor funds. And therefore, despite being on vacation, I need to still manage the trade, not the expectation. So Gbpcad shorts have indeed moved to break even. GBP US dollar shorts have been closed, and I will just await potential breaks of structures on those lower time frames on GBP US dollar before looking to take price towards the upside. Now, as a little additional breakdown that we have throughout the day, I've now updated my chart. and then I will definitely be looking to go to the beach or the pool for sure. DXY, we are moving towards the upside. It's very clear to see. As I continue to say, what goes up will often come down. Higher high, weekly time frame, higher high, every time frame, or all time frames. Therefore, at some point, I am expecting a higher low on the DXY to be created. I have no idea where that higher low is going to come into the market. As you can see, the DXY is not really providing any clear pullbacks based on basic technical price action and structure. Therefore, it is going to be more so an anticipation. And I think that is Gbpcad break even. We move on with the day. The DXY breaking structure to the lows is what we're going to have to seek first and foremost before really looking for any long positions on GBP US dollar. So despite my technical analysis showing signs of GU towards the upside, I need that confirmation somewhere. I'm not just going to wait for the confirmation on GU, because lower time frame on GU, of course, I'll be able to seek a 1 minute break of structure, but that doesn't necessarily mean that GU is ready to go to move towards the upside. So going to have some alerts on the DXY, that's for sure, to see price action breaking to the downside. Using the optics and basic price action, we'll say high, higher low, higher high in the market, higher low in the market, higher high, confirmed higher low. This remains a structure point for me. So to get the best outcome for me to take a long position, or even just call it a short position on the DXY, I'm going to need to see some structure points in the market broken. And what that's looking like at the moment is Asia towards the lows. So I'll put that there as a structure point and wait for structure to be broken towards the downside. Of course, aggressively, again, optics, lower time frames. This is going to be a structure point in the market. If I see structure points broken in the market, I'll be waiting for a pullback into an area of imbalance before looking for price to return down to the key structure point then based. If we're looking at this on the 1 minute time frame, this low in the market here, which we have just as a structure point in the 15, will absolutely be a key structure point on the 1 minute and the 5. So looking then to have to manage that position down by those areas. If I'm looking to take price aggressively on the DXY, which of course will correspond with taking an aggressive position long on GBP US dollar, and what that's going to look like on the lower time frames as well is probably going to be in and around these areas. So if I get a break of structure of that position here on GBP US dollar down into an area point of interest, left behind as a result of the break, which we can already see a 15-minute order block here. Therefore, there will indeed be a 1 or a 5-minute order block slightly lower. Then once the price taps into that area, might look for some additional confirmation by way of 1 minute aggressive break of structure, imbalance candle to a high by way of bullish engulfing candle, and then take that imbalance long on GU. So it's all shaping up, and that makes absolute sense, of course, why I've had to move to break even on Gbpcad, because I have the expectation that the pound is going to start to move towards the upside. It's simple. So Gbpcad, that's certainly break even now as a result of seeing the pound move towards those highs. So that's what I've got at the moment. Let me put an alert just here, and then I'll have my illustration up on the chart to see whether or not I want to take an aggressive position on GU if price pulls back down. What's nice to see is, has price touched that 15-minute order block ever so slightly, so therefore that 15-minute order block is doing the business. It also makes sense in terms of the fact that price has made higher low. Let's have a look to see if we can grab that high back up into that 4-hour 50 EMA, and let's see how the cookie crumbles with that. What else do I have that I'm looking at on the charts today? EU, not looking at anything. I'll be honest with you, I have no reason to take a long position on EU based on none of the higher time frame bias. In fact, no daily order block that I can look to play with, no wick imbalances that I can look to play with either on the weekly time frame. So EU's looking like I could just have to sit that one out. Let's see if we can have 15-minute time frame only for continued shorts. But again, structure's quite, more than quite, it's incredibly bearish. Therefore, it's difficult to anticipate the most basic price action structure in terms of, are we just looking at a low in the market caused by this area, or do I look at it more intricately, lower low, lower high, lower low created, meaning that this position here is a structure point in the market to have a 15-minute order block to the left hand side. That will give me some bias to look to take that position, perhaps therefore I can't be certain. So as a result of that, once price returns back up into that area, I need confirmation. I need to see a bearish engulfing candle on the 15-minute time frame that will support that short position, allow me to have another 15-minute order block. Then perhaps I'll look for a lower time frame 1-minute break of structure to take that position short. I've got Asia that is just going to be filled, so that's a bit of a disappointment in terms of the confidence I'd have to take that position, because Asia didn't necessarily need to be filled for me to take that position or broken. We can see the price is, of course, on the way down in the bearish formation. Therefore, I would have liked to have seen Asia available to have Asia fill as a confluence. We don't have that, so it is what it is, unfortunately. So EU, pretty much the back burner. Have to wait to see if price is going to return anyway. If not, it's one of those that it just is what it is. Nothing available on EU. Let's have a look to see Gcad. How would I approach Gcad in terms of a re-entry? Let's look at Gcad. So in terms of re-entry, Asia's available. That order block that we spoke about is doing the business. So perhaps I'll wait for price to break these areas, pull back up into an order block, then take another short position, no problem whatsoever. Although I've got no reason to re-enter that position at all. It's just one of those. We'll move on. GJ, what do we have on GJ? Anything on GJ just yet? No, to be honest, by the looks of this type of analysis, price action on the 15-minute time frame, so what's going on. So it's certainly bearish overall, but intricate breaks of structure towards the upside. So could I look for a short? My short position is definitely going to be coming from those highs, which I see you guys will definitely be able to see. A little bit far-fetched considering price is quite a distance away from that, and GJ can move very aggressively. So that's all the way at 215, 316. Do I have any order blocks to the downside that can support a long position, or will I just have to revert to 15-minute time frame only based on the most recent price action that's moving towards the upside? Let's have a look to see if I have any 15-minute order blocks to the left-hand side. And right down at these lows. So let's have a look to see if that makes sense. So let's make that slightly larger, pull that across the chart, and let's see what we have. Again, I'll just have to put an alert there. So we see a high created in the market after a high, expecting a higher low. Of course, price will make those lower time frame structural moves on the way back down to that point of interest. So until this alert goes off, nothing for me to be doing on GJ. And in terms of taking a position here, there's no reason that I should be shorting from these areas. May not be an order block, but play the game with me from these areas, because price hasn't broken structures to the low to then take that short position. So nothing on GJ, but for a good looking short from the highs, or a potential long position from this 15-minute order block. So an alert's there, probably going to update you guys throughout the day. UJ is looking like a half decent position, but the UJ is absolutely dependent on the DXY performance. If UJ pulls up into these areas, and I'm going to have to revert to the DXY to understand what the DXY is doing, is the DXY then going to provide me with those lower time frame breaks or structures that we spoke about, and perhaps on the 1-minute time frame, or even break some 15-minute areas? But because the DXY is moving so erratically towards the upside, it's difficult to really gauge that structure on the 15-minute time frame. So UJ looking as if we're gonna have to use that DXY to the highest degree, but nevertheless it will be seemingly looking like we're trading quite blind using the DXY. So if it makes sense to take a short on UJ, then absolutely I'll do so. But my structure points are right down at these lows, and I do feel that if I was to wait for that, I could potentially miss the move. So DXY I'm going to have to bring into my scan a lot in order to understand whether or not the UJ is ready for the short position. Perhaps I'll check the Japanese yen basket to see if that's going to come across as strong at some point, which feels very, very, very unlikely. But we'll have a good look at that if the time approaches. I've got an alert set there, an alert above the 15-minute order block. For good measure, AU is a real shame, but we're tapping into the higher time frame analysis to potentially take price towards the upside. I'm a degree away from that weekly order block, so I can look to take a long position back up into those areas. That's fine, but again, Directional bias does of course support the long position, but does the long make sense at the moment, considering we're incredibly bearish on all time frames? Absolutely not. So the first thing I need to wait for, absolutely without any hesitation, is a break of most recent structure points, pull back up to an area, then look for that long position if it is so available. So that's pretty much what I have, team. Running out of time for a nice little 20-minute breakdown in the morning. I'm going to get on with my day and update you guys when some meaningful alerts occur. All the very best in your training day and journey. Take care. All the best. Ciao.